Growing questions regarding what government programs could be slashed after President-elect Donald Trump announced the creation of the Department of Government Efficiency. Trump appointed the world's richest man, Elon Musk, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy to head up the new department, also known as DOGE. Musk has vowed to cut roughly $2 trillion in spending from the government's annual budget. That could impact millions of Americans who both work at U.S. government agencies and use government-provided programs. CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady is here with me in Studio 57. And Kelly, I'm sure a lot of people watching think, yeah, there's probably a lot of waste in Washington, but we also see maybe that a businessman like Elon Musk might have, some incentive to want to cut some of the red tape and bureaucracy with his own businesses. Can you help us understand what is mandatory spending and what is discretionary spending?
Yeah, this is a really important question, Lindsay, because this is how we break down the budget. So 2/3 of the budget, of the $6.75 trillion budget in 2024, is mandatory spending. So that is everything from your Social Security, your Medicare, the mandatory spending that is required by existing law. Discretionary spending is everything from research to transportation to employment, right? That is what Congress decides on every year. They have to approve that. So you said Musk is looking to cut $2 trillion. Well, roughly a third of that $6.75 trillion budget would be $2.2 trillion. So if you can only cut discretionary spending by going through Congress, otherwise you'd have to pass a law, that's a pretty similar number, right?
So if we know that bucket, the $2.2 trillion, the 1/3 that is discretionary, where would the cuts likely come from in that bucket?
So a lot of what we're hearing Musk say is employment. There's over 500,000 people in some of these government agencies, and the argument is they're working from home. Maybe we could have AI, artificial intelligence, streamline a lot of these jobs and such. Now, of course, what happens to these government workers? Now, Musk has also said there would be very generous severance packages in order for that to be rolled out. But look, there is a lot of excess in government. And so I think while maybe you won't get to that full $2 trillion number, there is room for some cutting.
So if things like Medicare, Social Security are part of the mandatory, if they wanted to touch those, they would have to go through Congress. That could take a while.
Exactly. So in order to change any of those programs, you would have to pass a law. And I think a lot of folks, are sitting at home wondering, well, I don't want any of that touched. I've paid into that over time. I'm owed that. So when DOGE can recommend anything that they want, but yes, they would have to pass a law. Here's the interesting part, Lindsay, though. There's $100 billion in fraud alone in Medicare last year. So that's abuse, improper spending, just downright fraud. So what DOGE could look to do is try and cut that. So it wouldn't be cutting any of what Medicare is owed to people, but cutting the fraud. That was $100 billion. I mean, it's something, right?
So how long does an overhaul like this realistically take?
Well, it's government, right? So it takes forever. So yes, if you had to cut any of that mandatory spending, it would need to go through legislation. Of course, you have, yes, there is a majority in the Senate and the House, but that's going to be tough.
Not filibuster proof.
Exactly. And those people want to get elected again. And some of their constituents would say, well, wait, hold on, I don't want this touched.
Right. Social Security, Medicare, very popular.
Exactly. And then in terms of the discretionary spending, yeah, it would need to go through Congress. And we know there's always wheeling and dealing, and everything takes so much time. So DOGE has a deadline of July 2026 to make these recommendations. So you're looking at, a roughly year-and-a-half timeline at least, Lindsay.
Okay, so a year and a half just to make recommendations. Are we expecting any changes to be made from now until July 2026?
I think it's possible, right? And that's what we're going to have to see with how this new administration, deals with this organization and how popular it is amongst those in Congress.
Okay, Kelly, thank you so much.